Alright, fellas. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate all your patience in this matter. So, you guys ready to find out who won?
Well, I sure hope it's me.
Don't worry, guys. I got this in the bag.
Question. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Jokester, please. Don't do that, man. Copyright infringement.
Oh, Steely, why so serious?
Dude, stop.
Every time
Stop this guy.
I can't
Seriously, are you going to do anything Seriously,
about this?
stop it.
Can
I mean,
can
stop
I use
it.
the bathroom?
Stop it. No, I'm not Ryan Reynolds, but... I mean, I got
buddy,
but
oh,
I'm
God.
funny. Terry, really?
Oh, God.
I'd
Die for me.
Wolverine.
No,
I just
never mind.
animated. Shut up! Terry won.
Yes! Oh, by the way, we all got you a little gift for your birthday that we just missed.
Oh, we, all chipped in. Really? Well, you guys shouldn't have. Well, where? Who's got it?
Happy birthday, Steely!
Appreciate it.
Why so serious?
Stop that! I gotta change. Roll it.
Yeah. Yo, what's up, Jay?
What it is, Steely.
Glad you're back, dog.
Oh, so you wanna roll with Steely Mo? The only dude on the mic with a killer flow. He get his dough and they all wanna kill him slow. But he gon' take you for a ride.
So here we go.
Oh, so you wanna roll with Steely Mo? The only dude on the mic with a killer flow. He get his dough and they all wanna kill him slow. But he gon' take you for a ride.
So here we go.
Oh, so you wanna roll with Steely Mo? The only dude on the mic with a killer flow. He get his dough and they all wanna kill him slow. But he gon' take you for a ride.
So here we go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jay.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Steely's Corner. This is episode 6, Mama's Boys. So, with that being said, I have to introduce my co-host for the evening, Terry.
Hey,
Hi, buddy.
I'm Terry.
Yes, we know you're Terry. Okay, this is how we're going to do this. You introduce the segments,
Yep.
and I'll take care of the rest. Sound good? Good.
Alrighty.
I know you will, so you're good to go. You can go. Okay. Sorry about that. So in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at two different men that are legends within the wrestling industry for two totally different reasons, but neither of which are for having a lack of love for mommy. We're also going to take a look at a classic tale of forbidden love between mother and son seen through modern eyes. And that means more than just recasting the main role of Anthony Perkins with Vince Vaughn. Oh, that Norman. Stop that. Please. Anyway. And lastly, we're going to be taking a look at the biggest mama's boy in horror history by skipping the very first entry of his franchise and going right to the sequel.
Don't worry, we'll cover the original eventually.
I was just going to say that. Don't worry, we're going to cover the first entry as well. So, yeah. But, as always, make sure you like, share,
And subscribe!
Okay, this is going to get annoying. Please make sure you subscribe, because here we
Go!
Would you stop that?
Well, alright. Are you guys ready? I sure am excited. I'm your co-host for today. So, we got a schedule to keep, so here we go. First, let's take a spotlight of WWE's biggest mama's boy, Shane McMahon. Steely?
Following in your father's footsteps and taking over a family business is a tale that's as old as time. But when that family business is the wrestling business, it is a completely different ball of wax altogether. Shane Brandon McMahon was born on January 15th, 1970, actually in Gaithersburg, Maryland. Me doing this research actually figured out that he's from my home state. Initially, but they moved to Connecticut. From a young age, Shane fell in love with the business. Being around so many huge legends growing up at such a young age made a huge impression on the young McMahon, even once telling Andre the Giant that they were going to win the tag team titles together. That's cute. It's cute, Shane. But his mother, Linda, did not want him anywhere near the squared circle. She did not want her baby boy getting hurt. So Shane, determined to be his own man and make it on his own steam and own name, started working almost by the age of 12 in the WWF warehouse, doing shipping for merchandising and also modeling for shirts and hats inside of the WWF catalog. He's making it on his own. Regardless, the kid had a lot of drive and a lot of motivation to definitely make it on its own. Graduating from the University of Boston with a master's degree in mass communications, he was ready to take on the world. So he became a referee in the late 80s for the WWF. God, this seems like nepotism, but not really. Going under the moniker of Shane Stevens, he was involved in some of the biggest matches in the late 80s, and you wouldn't even have noticed it at the time. You have to go back and check some of the footage. But by the time the 90s hit, he wanted an on-screen role working with his dad. Once he actually convinced his mom to let him join the Federation as an active competitor and on-screen personality, he quickly took to the ropes with some mixture and varying degrees of landing successful punches. Some of them are still not 100% believable, but hey, whatever. He's the boss's son. Over the years, Shane gained many different backstage roles, from production to creative to being the head of the digital media department, eventually making it to the commentary desk, co-hosting Sunday Night Heat with Jim Cornette. But by the time the end of the 90s started to come around, he had the itch 100% to get into the ring. Almost being an instant foil to his father, he started competing. And almost every segment that the father and son had a disagreement with ended with Vince telling his son to go cry to his mommy. After a lot of back and forth and brawls and disagreements and underhanded trading against his father, Shane finally, in 2001, pulled the heist of the decade. That's right, I can only be talking about when, on screen, Shane purchased WCW out from underneath of Vince McMahon. With Vince's aspirations to merge the WWE and the WCW together, now he had somebody with almost even footing, power, and a crazy mind just like his own to oppose him where he stood. Now, this was also what began the creation of the invasion angle, and the less said about that, the better. Those of us that lived through it, remember. To continue on, this is where the mama's boy, good son angle really starts to come into play. Because of Shane's actions, Vince challenged him to a father versus son street fight at WrestleMania X7, or 17 if you want to be a chronological nerd about it. Well, I say both, but whatever. Anyway, it was a complete and utter crazy, ridiculous match. A coast to coast with a trash can, but let me give you a little bit of backstory first. During this time, Vince was going through basically a midlife crisis. Having his wife, Linda McMahon, basically in a medically induced coma in a wheelchair, wheeling her around all over the place and doing stuff in front of her face where she basically could do absolutely nothing about it. Even going as far as to have his on-screen mistress, Trish Stratus, and make out with her in front of his wife. Yeah, guys, The Attitude Era. Wasn't it beautiful? The more you know. So because of Vince's actions, Shane vowed to take his father down at WrestleMania for his own self-respect and to avenge the honor of his mother. He had a little bit of help though. The special guest referee in this match was a little somebody we'll be talking about in just a few. But enough about him, back to Shane. After a brutal and crazy car crash of a fight, Shane was able to be victorious, with an assist from his mom, who rose up out of her chair to one of the biggest pops in wrestling history and kicked Vince right in his famous grapefruits because they forgot to drug her that day. I know it feels like I'm skipping around a little bit, but I try to keep this to a 30-minute show, so I've got to condense it down a little bit. After their brawl at WrestleMania, the invasion angle happened. Shane switched sides a couple of times, aligning himself with other wrestlers, trying to become a foil for his father. As time went on, they would band together, break apart, band together, break apart, until about 2010, when Shane asked for his release from the company. Moved to China with his family and became CEO of a mass communications and media company known as You On Demand, actually laying the groundwork for what we know today as the WWE Network. That just got bought out by NBC and is now on Peacock. Why do all these things end in something less than? Anyway, you can't keep the wrestling bug out of somebody for too long, because 6 years later, in 2016, Shane made his long-awaited return and got put right into a match with The Undertaker. The man that is known for being, I guess, WWE's least experienced but craziest daredevil, doing leaps of faith off progressively taller and taller and taller things from the side of the Titantron to the top of Hell in a Cell itself. Shane has zero fear. He has to have that to make up for, again, the lack of experience and proper training that he could have had in the ring. But he's known in the locker room as one of the most toughest and legitimate competitors that is there. He will give 110% in every performance that he gives. And on top of that, they say that he handles things the way his father would with his father's intelligence, but does things with his mother's gentle touch. They call him the nice McMahon behind the scenes. As time has went on, Shane has remained a staple in the company, being part of some of the biggest storylines and angles that are going on even currently. As most recently as just this previous Raw, where he was integral to crowning Bobby Lashley the new WWE Champion from that little weasel, Miz. Thank you, Shane. We appreciate that. But whether he comes and he goes, the legacy that he leaves behind is one of legend. Again, he could land them punches a little bit better, but we've all got a soft place in our hearts for a man that does business like his father, but loves like his mother. Thanks, Shane. You're a good guy. Now go jump off something high. They don't want none. They don't want none. They're looking scared, but they don't really want none. They don't want
Gosh. He looks bad.
none. They don't
You're
want
right.
none.
Let's make it worse. I like the way you
They're
move.
looking scared, but they don't
Flirt.
really want none.
Let's get him. You ready? Hi, AJ.
They don't want none.
Here we go. Next, let's move on down to these wonderful pops as we take a look at the king of hardcore himself, Mick Foley. Oh, I wasn't supposed to reveal who it was yet. I'll get it on the next one, guys.
An everyday man's hero. Wrestling royalty. Hardcore legend. Cactus Jack. Mankind. Dude Love. Almost Mason the Mutilator, but thank God. I'm just happy that that didn't come through. Guys, I could only be talking about the one and only Mick Foley. Mrs. Foley's baby boy. Any fan of wrestling will know this grizzled grandpa of goodness. This man of the people started out in the wrestling business to actually get money to help his mom pay the bills. Yeah, now that is some mommy love right there. I really wish I would have saved this episode for Mother's Day. But thanks, Terry. Appreciate it, bud. From his humble beginnings jumping off of his rooftop onto mattresses, to being in WCW facing the likes of Sting and Vader, going to Japan and becoming the king of hardcore, and finally landing in WWE, where he made his greatest creations come to life. Born Michael Francis Foley.
How tough can he be with a name like Francis?
Francis.
I hope I would have gained the moniker of King of the Deathmatch if I survived a barbed wire rope, thumbtack mat, exploding barbed wire board, exploding ring, time bomb deathmatch. No, I didn't just make that up. Ask Terry Funk's forehead if I made that up.
That was quite a mouthful.
Starting off as the maniacal and crazy Mankind, from that he started to evolve and brought out a character from his past, Dude Love. Hippie type, laid back, cool guy, ladies man. And then, finally, to top off this trilogy of crazy different characters, he brought back Cactus Jack, the character that he used in Japan during all those insane bloodbaths, to round this out. That gave us the three faces of Foley. We never knew which one that we were going to end up getting at any given night. But now what we have, as time has went on, he has morphed all of those different gimmicks down into one wonderful, beautiful hodgepodge. He can be seen wearing Cactus Jack's t-shirt, but having Dude Love's scarf tied around his neck. And for some reason, most of the time, almost dressing like Santa. But this guy has done absolutely everything. He's a stand-up comedian. He's a best-selling author. But down at his heart, he is a family man. He even had a show on the WWE network called Holy Foley that looked into the love and respect that he actually has for his family, introducing us to what he's like outside of the ring. And that's why I say he's just a big, crazy, cuddly grandpa. But the guy is legitimately one of the nicest people in the world. I had an opportunity to meet him a few years ago. Even though it was brief, again, he was so sweet and kind. A few years back, my mother-in-law was kind enough to get an autographed picture of his Hall of Fame photo. That's right. It was made out to me and my oldest son, Tyler. Thanks, Cindy. Also, as far as him being a great humanitarian, this guy sent a personal video message thanking my cousin Karen's husband Phil for his service in our armed forces a few Veterans Days ago. That's pretty awesome. The guy is a legend for so many different reasons. For putting superstars like Randy Orton and Triple H through their paces and pain, to lovingly catching Edge for one of the warmest hugs and embraces in WWE history.
Oh my God, what's gonna happen?
From being thrown off of, thrown through, and falling off of Hell in a Cell, to his almost certain death.
The Undertaker thought he was dead.
Nowadays, Mick is, thank God, retired because we don't want to hurt you, you national treasure, you. But he still works as a goodwill ambassador for WWE. He does a bunch of different charity work around the world, also hitting the con circuit whenever he can, and this pop perfectly encapsulates what Nick is, who he is, and what he's about. Just carefree and 100% being himself. And that's how I try to be. So, deep down inside though, he started this journey because of the love for his mom. He may be a mama's boy, but he is tougher than a $2 steak, by God!
And now, a review of Bates Motel. I'm looking forward to this one.
This is our chance to start over.
Maybe some people don't get to start over.
What do you think?
This is crazy, Mom.
We own a motel, Norman Bates.
You're different.
What's so different about me?
I don't know, it's just a feeling I get.
Nowhere is like this. People in this town, they deal with things in a different way.
In 1960, horror movie maestro Alfred Hitchcock.
Watch your mouth.
Terry, less is more. The less you say, the more I can do. Okay? Anyway, Hitchcock gave us one of the greatest horror movie classics of all time, Psycho. The film was about a mild-mannered man named Norman Bates who ran a remote roadside motel, in which the guests of his motel would eventually meet their fates by Norman's deranged, out-of-control, crazy, bloodthirsty mother. With the twist being, spoiler alert for a 60-year-old movie, for God's sakes, Norman's mother, Norma, was a corpse.
Hey, watch your mouth.
That was set up in shrine-like fashion in the fruit cellar of the large house that sat on the hill that loomed over top of the motel grounds that were just below. This hit movie was controversial for its imagery of violence and for its use of the first flushing toilet ever seen on film. Are you kidding me? Seriously? In 1960, we were in the midst of the Vietnam War, and people were in a tizzy about Janet Leigh flushing a crapper? Are you serious? Anyway, the first movie was a huge hit. I say first movie because it did spawn a series of sequels to varying degrees of quality and of interest. Keep those in mind because they may come back to haunt us in a little bit. So, anyway, 38 years later, the movie decides to get remade and rebooted. Updated. The original film was modernized and was literally almost a shot-for-shot remake of the original. Just with new actors and with some updated technology. Oh, and it was in color. It's a story for another day. It's a story for another day, the feelings that I have for this Vince Vaughn-led abortion of a film. Anyway, fast forward 14 more years later from that, and A&E bought the rights to Psycho to give us a good, modern retelling and reimagining of the tale of the boy who loved his mother so much. But here was the small problem. They didn't buy the rights to the original Psycho. Remember when I said that there was 4 sequels that had varying degrees in quality? Well, they initially bought the rights to Psycho 4, which was titled Psycho 4: The Beginning. Now, all of the sequels in the Psycho series had Anthony Perkins as their main character. In Part 4, they had a middle-aged Anthony Perkins retelling how his life was growing up and what led us to the events of the first film. The torrid love affair between him and his mother, the abuse, them acquiring the hotel, and so on and so forth. So A&E took that, but what they did was updated it to, like I said, a modern version. But a modern version happening now. Well, 2013. But now. Then is now. We're here and now. But it was from then. So now.
Now. You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now.
What happened to then?
We passed then.
When?
Just now. We're at now.
Go back to then.
When?
Now.
Now?
Now.
I can't.
Why?
We missed it.
When?
Just now.
When will then be now?
Soon.
Mother.
What are you doing? So A&E gave us Bates Motel, starring the Conjuring series mainstay and co-star of a bunch of movies where she played opposite of sexy male leads in business suits. Check her IMDb. It's almost kind of like a weird subgenre of movies. Vera Farmiga, and the creepy-ass kid that played Charlie in the Tim Burton remake of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Freddie Highmore. The show follows Norma and Norman as a mother-son duo trying to have a fresh start, fleeing their old life after Norman's father tragically and mysteriously passed away. They took the insurance money and bought a recently foreclosed on roadside motel in the picturesque but yet seemingly quiet town of White Pine Bay, Oregon. Norma's overprotectiveness of Norman gives some people the vibes that they're a little bit closer than a mother and son should be. And one of those people include Norman.
Watch what you're saying, boy. It's not very polite.
Whoa. Pump the brakes there, Dexter's Lab. You're starting to creep me out. But the truth is, Norma is the only one that knows about Norman's condition and these little crazy psycho episodes that he falls himself into. So she's not only trying to protect Norman from everybody in White Pine Bay, she's trying to protect White Pine Bay from Norman. And then there's a drug cartel, and a giant fire, and a crooked police force, and a touchy-feely teacher, and an underground human trafficking ring, an underground sex ring, a couple of runaways, and a rapey uncle. And that was the first episode. See? I told you it was modern. It has stylish storytelling with modern twists on this classic tale that we all know. Instead of following the original film's layout beat for beat, pay attention 1998 remake, this concerns you. It totally subverts your expectations. New problems, new solutions. I absolutely love it. This is what a remake or a reimagining should be. The show leads you to believe you know what's going to happen next because of your knowledge of the previous films. And then, just as it comes to a head, it drops you off of a cliff. Dark and morbid, yet sweet and charming and layered with dark humor. I could not recommend this series enough. 5 very strong seasons in this show. 10 episodes per season, so it's a pretty easy binge watch if you have the time for it, or something you can slowly go through. But I guarantee you'll be backtracking some episodes to see if you could notice people's ulterior motives starting to blossom in the show sooner than they actually reveal them to you. Because I gotta be honest, in this show, there is no true blue good guy. Everybody involved in this show is either crooked or carries a deep, deep, dark secret that is only part of the lore of the bloody town of White Pine Bay.
You have a filthy potty mouth, and I think I've heard just enough out of you, you chattering, filthy boy!
What in the absolute hell?
Want a mother?
Oh my god.
Mother.
Yeah.
Mother.
Bates Motel can be found on Amazon Prime and Hulu and also A&E on demand. I gotta go take care of that before he hurts somebody. Dude, put that down. What the hell is your problem?
Sorry, guys. I don't know what came over me. Well, let's go out with a bang. And our final segment of the day, our horror movie review of the week, Friday the 13th, Part 2.
Are you calm
Yes.
now?
I'm calm.
Are you sure?
I promise.
All right. Go
Okay.
ahead and introduce the next segment. Dude, come on. He doesn't even have the hockey mask yet.
Shucks. You're right.
God.
Sorry.
I should have just did this by myself.
Better?
If that's as far as you go with it, then fine. But no farther. Just,
Okay.
I can deal with that. Just stay over there.
I can do that.
In 1980, Sean Cunningham gave us Friday the 13th. And with that, he gave birth to one of the greatest, most iconic horror movie monster slashers of all time. He just didn't know it yet. In the original Friday the 13th, it turned out that Betsy Palmer, Jason's mother, was the killer. Don't act like you didn't know that. This grief-stricken mother was on a quest for revenge against the people who allowed her mentally impaired son, Jason, to drown due to being unattended. And as she killed her way through the counselors and the people that were just visiting the camp that had absolutely nothing to do with it, she ended up meeting the business end of a machete, which ended her time and ended her rampage. But oddly enough,
This is where it starts getting good.
but Redcon alert, apparently Jason's not dead and witnessed his mother's decapitation. So, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that Jason wasn't actually dead? So all the stuff his mother did in the first movie was absolutely for naught. If he would have just showed up a few minutes earlier before the final girl killed his mom, she'd still be alive? The hell were you doing, Jason? Anyway, enter Friday the 13th Part 2. Friday the 13th Part 2 starts off with a flashback. Okay, it's a 2-minute recap of what happened in the first movie, with some slight alterations to make Jason alive now. Again, I still can't get over that. Anyway, we end up checking in with the last movie's final girl, Alice, whom was basically having a dream about it all. She's been plagued by nightmares of everything that happened the year prior at Camp Blood, only to come face to face with the man of her dreams. So, after our homeboy Jason sent Alice to permanent Wonderland, we then follow our hillbilly-inspired Mongoloid Superman of Crystal Lake back home to be with Mommy. Honestly, Part 2 is really just a retread of Part 1, with some variations of it. You see, in the first movie, we weren't quite sure who the killer was, or what was going on, or who was doing it. Part 1 essentially was a whodunit, but with Part 2, we done knew who done did all the doing. And because of the similarities between the two movies, Part 2 led into the gore more. Since we knew who the killer was and what the killer looked like, there needed to be a different element besides the mystery. And this film actually had some of the greatest kills and most creative kills in the series, and it really laid the groundwork for future films in the series to try to top and raise the bar as they went on. But I'm sorry, if you had to make a choice between Part 1 and Part 2, I would pick Part 1, because essentially they are the same movie, but out of the two, this is the better film. In this one, Jason is guided by the voice of his dead mother to forge a bloody path back home to find her. Which, again, doesn't really make much sense. But still, I do like part 2. It has its bad moments, but it also has some really good moments. It does establish Jason himself, that will later go on to be this hulking powerhouse force of freaking nature that only gets better as it goes on. But this also lays the groundwork for what Jason is, which is basically Jason killing camp counselors at a camp. But this isn't necessarily the best version of Jason killing kids at a camp. He just hasn't quite got there yet. He hasn't quite gotten his mystique or his style, and that will come later as the installments go on. But it's an easy watch. If you're a horror movie completionist, yes, you absolutely need to watch this one. But if you're a casual fan of horror and you really want to see what Jason's all about, check out Part 4 or Part 6. They are Jason at his best and his purest form, in my humble opinion. We all know that Kane Hodder is the definitive Jason, but Part 4's Ted White and Part 6's CJ Graham both give an awesome performance that actually helped Kane mold and shape the character as a whole, taking cues from each previous Jason moving forward. I know as this show goes on in the future, we'll touch more on all of these Jason movies, but this being the introduction, I kind of wanted to get this one out of the way. But it really does establish that motherly love and bond aesthetic for the movies that was the driving force behind it in the beginning. Because if they didn't retcon the events that happened in this movie to make this movie possible, we wouldn't have gotten all of the other Jason movies that we've come to know and love today. All because this crazy, mongoloid, hillbilly psychopath decided to somehow cheat death, put a potato sack on his head, and go a-camping with some of the most disgusting, in some people's opinion, but I think freaking awesome, bloody and gory special effects that they could do in the 80s without Tom Savini. It's a good movie. It's not a bad movie, but it is a Jason movie, so we have to put it in somewhat of a high regard. I'd give it a watch. It's available right now on HBO On Demand, and I also believe YouTube Movies. And as for my patented 5 out of 5 movie ranking scale, I give Friday the 13th Part 2, 2.5 guys rolling down a flight of stairs backwards in a wheelchair with a machete stuck in their face out of 5. Don't watch it with your mom. Thank God. We're done. Bye, Terry.
Guys, I had a great time as your co-host today. Sorry for losing it a little bit there, but if I ever get the chance to do this again, I won't let you guys down. Thanks again for voting for Terry. I hope I didn't disappoint, and I hope Mr. Steely would like to keep me on this show. Because if he doesn't, Mother can always come back. See you next time!
Remind me not to do this again. Ugh. Anyway, guys, that was this week's episode. Thank you again for viewing in. Thank you for voting. And thank you all so much. We finally hit 100 subscribers. Yes, we're 1/10 of the way there. But hey, we're going to keep on pushing. Next week's episode, we're going to have a St. Patrick's Day special. So be ready for some Luck of the Irish. As always, guys, make sure you like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe so we can help geek culture stay alive here at Steely's Corner. I'll see you guys next week. Peace. They don't want none. AJ, it's time to get up. Huh? You're being discharged, bud. Discharged? From what? You've been in a coma for 2 weeks. As in a cornucopia? Yeah. And Bobby Lashley won the WWE title from The Miz. Are you serious? Mother